Hello everyone, Nubkeks here. Welcome back to game number 5, the halfway point of our placement games, Haunted Oh boy, this is also the first time we have played on Haunted Mines. In fact, just straight up the first time I've played on the new Haunted Mines. I did play it back before. I used to play the game when we had the original, well, not the original, but the version of the Haunted Mines that was there at the point that they removed it. I played on that. So yeah, this one should be pretty interesting. This is the new reworked Haunted Mines, and I was going into this pretty much blind. I'd seen a few like little clips of the map, and I kind of went into the draft thinking stuff that's probably decent here. I would assume. Well, I know for a fact that there's more entrances to the mine and that there's more merc camps than before, and that's literally all I knew. I actually lead off with the first pick Nova, which is kind of hilarious. Anyway, yeah, I'm deleting some chat from the last round here. But we do have, as you can see, Smexy on our team, and on the enemy team, JPL. They're the two team captains. So obviously two pro players that you guys probably know if you follow the European scene. JPL playing for Dignitas and Smexy playing for Fnatic. So the two, I suppose, current top teams, which is pretty cool. Played with and against, I think, both of them before. But anyway, here we go. We're into the draft. The enemy team leading with the Nova. I actually think it could be a pretty decent map for Nova. I'm not super sure, but I think it might be. A lot of this will be kind of exploring some of the meta and just kind of, I'm actually going to go through it, kind of like my impressions of it a bit as we went through the particular game and talking about the strategy, because there's also a really interesting thing happening with the MMR in this game, which I think I'm actually going to point out at the start, and I think you guys will see this really coming through over the course of this video. They also grab Lunara and they grab Malfurion. So they don't have a particularly synergized team composition at all. But then we've got Arthas and Thrall, so we don't have a particularly synergized comp either, and our comp isn't necessarily very good against theirs. We lead off with, we grab the Rhaegar. I was thinking of grabbing Samuro here. Now, Smexy didn't want that. He wanted me to play something ranged. So I decided to just go with that. Because, you know what, he's a pro player, he's the team captain. Our Li Ming player is expressing the same sentiment in a slightly less eloquent way. I was kind of considering, okay, what's actually going to work well here? He calls for Vala, so I said, you know what, like, I can play Vala. I'm good at Vala. This could work out fairly well. I'm not completely opposed to it, but I was really leaning towards the Samuro thing. The reason I was a bit nervous about Vala was kind of going, I really don't want to play Vala into a Nova. That's actually kind of scary, particularly because I was considering that in the mines, I don't know, if we are split up at any point, the Nova will be able to just wreck my face. It's kind of a terrifying thing to go up against. We'll see what these two guys pick up at the end. But yeah, I was a bit concerned about the squishiness of Vala and the fact that, you know, we've got a single support Rhaegar. That's it. I was thinking Samuro could work very well, because Samuro, I know, like I said, I thought there's lots of merc camps in the mines as well. I thought Samuro would actually be really good at all that stuff, and then we could totally run like a Bloodlust comp, and it would be pretty cool, just crazy Bloodlust and dive the enemy team. And Li Ming would be fine on her own. She can deal with Nova, no problem. So we've opted for a much more standard composition. I think it's kind of an interesting thing, actually, because, you know, Smexy was saying, you know, we want someone ranged, which is obviously the pro standard. But I actually think, you know, in the draft, I think Samuro would have been better. I really do think Samuro would have been better overall. And just running kind of a crazy comp, like, yeah, this crazy melee bloodlust dive comp. We saw that in our last game and it worked amazing. I kind of wanted to try it in this one. Considering it's a new map, people don't really know the meta, and considering that Samuro would have fit well there and is also really good against Nova, whereas Val is very vulnerable, I was kind of leaning towards that. It's an interesting thing. I read someone did a statistical analysis of picks and how they affect your win rate, and what they found was there's very little correlation between having the correct sub roles. That is like a well-rounded team comp necessarily, though I think it's maybe a bit underrepresented in that. They found the biggest thing that determines whether people win is the synergies and counter picks that they create, and whether heroes fit to the map objectives. So I'm just kind of defending the Samuro pick, but either way, we have come through this with a very on the whole, a fairly well-rounded composition. We do have Thrall solo tank, which is, Arthas solo tank, which is not super ideal. He does pick Syndragosa in this, which is what his plan was, I think. Bit of a troll pick, and you'll see, I actually don't think it's good, but I didn't know that coming into this, and the reason is you'll see that the Grave Golem things actually do very little damage, which is why I don't think it's good. They're more just bullet sponges. But anyway, bit of an idea there. But yeah, the enemy team, they picked up Tyrael and our Alarak to finish it off. I think they're fairly decent choices. Now, Thrall should probably win that solo lane, and I don't think Alarak super synergizes with the map, but he'd be good at the team fights, obviously. So it's not the best pick for them. But the Tyrael pick is pretty good overall. Nice defenses. Can protect people from the earthquake, so it's not awful. I did miss my Q there, I think. This Alarak is way out of position. One thing I want you to note in this game, I think this is, aside from the Haunted Mines, I want to talk a bit about this at the start. Very much in this game, something I noticed very much throughout the placement games is that with the MMR squish, which is basically, I think, roughly speaking, what they did is they take your MMR, they take the average MMR of all the players, they add them together and divide by 2, which means, let's say you were at about, let's say the average MMR, let's just say, roughly is about 2,000, for sake of argument. Someone at 1,000 will then come out at 1,500, someone at 3,000 at 2,500. Very, very rough indication of that. That's not the proper formula, but just to give you a rough idea. I'll come back to it in a second. This is really interesting. So yeah, our teammates go in and they die. So Arthas actually had a really good idea there. I thought this was really interesting. These guys are flaming him. You can see that I picked up on the strategy very quickly, and Arthas had a really good idea, but our teammates did not realize at all. But yeah, 100% agree with Smexy right here. He's going, okay, we took out the fort, which is really valuable. And then, like, it just, the way the enemy team had all rotated down, there was no way we're getting out of it. So he just dived their team, slows them down so we can escape. Our teammates followed him back in, and Li Ming almost died. Rhaegar did die. So it turned what actually would have been a really good play, which is, you know, Arthur. We took the fort. Arthur sacrificed himself. No big deal. We're back alive in time for the fort. It turned that into a worse play because they followed in afterwards into a completely unviable situation. I thought that was really interesting. But of course, you can see that they're blaming the Arthurs for doing something completely correct when they're the ones that were in the wrong. I think that's really interesting. Because what you see in this game, this is the dynamic I've been talking about, is because of this squish, although you're seeing a much broader range of actual skill levels much more consistently. So for example, in this game we have Smexy and JPL, I think very much noticeably better than the other players in this game. And then we've got other players that are very noticeably weaker. And you're going to see that throughout the course of this game. For example, the Alarak dying at the start was pretty awful. And just, you'll see, I think, the shot calling of our other team members and their strategies are going to be really, really bad. Because basically we're playing with JPL, or excuse me, Smexy and JPL, who would have been like, you know, let's say season 2, the previous season, kind of like 4,000 MMR, roughly speaking. And then we're also playing with these players that would have been barely scraping 3,000 MMR. That's a huge skill range. And then we got the same sort of thing on the enemy team. I was at 3,500-ish, so kind of in the middle. But you'll see, I think, very noticeably that the shot calling and the strategy of these players, the weaker players on the team, you should, hopefully, I think, notice this sort of stark difference. I think that, again, the fort situation early in the game was a brilliant example where it takes a situation where, yeah, Arthur sacrificing himself makes sense, and they don't understand, and they're just flaming him for doing something that's actually a really smart idea. Anyway, we did come out of the mines. We did lose, ultimately, but it's not, I think, a big deal. Certainly with the old Haunted Mines, it was like 60-40 was the mark of like the most important split. Having something 56-44, the golems should be, roughly speaking, on a similar power level. You can see, looking at the health bars, that the blue one, it actually looked like the blue one had more health. That's just, I don't know, that's kind of weird, confusing. I don't think it's the case though. It would be weird if it was, it would be a bug, but yeah, it looked like it did, but I don't know why. But yeah, they should be roughly similar on rough health levels. Which are one of the interesting things that I noticed. Again, this Alarak is just out of position. This is a really nice gank as well. Kind of a fake going up towards the top. Swing down instead, pick off the Alarak. Now, Li Ming out of position. I don't know what she was doing actually, or where she was going, but she was doing something strange anyway, and she dies. So that makes this a really awkward position, and Rhaegar is going to die as well. And now myself and Arthas and even Thrall are in a pretty rough spot. See, as I'm running, I'm trying to do some basic attacks to get extra movement speed from Vala's trait. That's what's going on right there. Gonna tap the well. We get bullied off. Thrall is rotated down a little bit. And unfortunately, although we are much higher in terms of structures, like we have an extra fort down, that should be a pretty big lead. We're actually a bit behind in terms of XP because of like a couple of unnecessary deaths and things like that. Also, as you probably noticed, we're taking merc camps kind of all over the shop. I realized there, by the way, I didn't need to Hearthstone. I got full mana. I got Rhaegar here, so it should be fine. We're taking merc camps just crazily. I don't know the strategies, actually, for when to take merc camps, what is the ideal timing, or anything like that. Oh, and I have gone for a Q-Build Vala, too. That was a nice combo by the Alarak. I'm just backing off. And I've vault across, hit the Li Ming. It is the clone, I know that. But it gives me some stacks of my Q quest anyway. Which I went for the Q build in this. I think it's probably the better one. It gives you... It should help us clear the mines the best. And this is a mistake for me. Taking this Sapper Camp is a mistake. Should have stayed and pushed up top. And it was a Li Ming pinged for the help. And I went with that by accident. But I should not have gone with Li Ming. That was a bad actually call. I think the enemy team was all very low, lower than us. I think we had, we had a siege camp pushing in. I think we could have and should have actually pushed top and tried to take down that fort. And it certainly gives us a good advantage here going into this mines phase. We got mercs pushing bottom, and that's great. But I think it would have been a bit more ideal to stay top with our team. But shot calling from Li Ming came through, and I followed that. Anyway, we're in this spite phase, and as like I said, you can see the enemy team is down the bottom lane of their side of the map. They're going to be entering pretty soon, which is kind of scary. We definitely need to watch out for that. You can see our team is very, very split. I'm trying to make my way around to join up with them. Going completely the safe way here. But we spot the enemy team down there, so we're going to run through and try to help them out. Arthur's actually too busy typing, and he actually, that was a mistake from him. Quite a big mistake, so he does go down. But like I said, we got 64 skulls, which is like the kind of one of the... I assume one of the switch points, one of the big points, getting 60 plus skulls. So our golem should be much stronger. It has a long way to go though, because we've already taken out the fort. But while the enemy team is taking out their camp, we're going to use this opportunity to push in the top lane a little bit. Just try to burst that down. You can see they're coming through the middle. So keeping an eye on that, watching that. Our team actually stealing their siege camp. That's risky. And I'm not sure what they're doing right now. Re-engaging, running some such way. I don't really know what the plan is, but that's what they're doing. Yeah, he's dead. And Thrall, I presume, is going to be dead as well. This is a really awkward spot. Oh no, Rhaegar, no, never mind. I was going to say he might have made it out, but no, he actually died. I'm going to try help Thrall escape here. There we go. Thrall does get out, so we only lost one hero, and that's good. But again, I feel like sacrificing heroes for the sake of siege camps is a really bad idea when the objective is spawning. I don't really see the point. And now with Rhaegar dead, and just the awkward position we're in, and just the way the positioning worked out around the map, we're actually going to defend against the weaker golem instead of pushing with it. And obviously I think we would very much want to push with it. You can see I'm just using my Q build as sort of efficiently as possible to try to do maximum damage here to the golem. Arthas with Syndragosa disabling the structures and enabling that push to go even stronger. I'm pretty sure that Blizzard is going to up the damage that the Grave Golems do, because they do seem really, really weak. It might get the keep though. It might get the keep. It's not dead yet. I'll find out. Oh, I can't see. There's enemy heroes above the health bar. We're not looking. While they're defending bottom... Okay, no, it didn't even barely scratch the keep. Never mind. While they're down there, using this opportunity to kind of push in a bit aggressively. Malfurion is still a bit far away, so we could afford to position in that way. Our teammates are lurking very close to their gates. Our vulnerable teammates, that is. That's a good sanctification, and actually very good roots. Catches us in there, followed up. Really well played by the Malf, actually. That was excellent work from him. Perfect roots, and followed up by a perfect Twilight Dream. Basically won them that team fight. Luckily, none of us died, so that's good. But Rhaegar going way too aggressive. I'm not sure what he's doing or what he's trying to do. We're going to follow him up anyway and just give him some backup. But really pushing in very aggressively. I think for no real reason. Or swing back. We still have a siege camp that we could potentially take, but Thrall has gone too far forward, so we have to come back and help him out. Again, need to be really careful here. Rhaegar obviously not here, Li Ming not here either, but getting some nice stacks for our Q quest, which is always a bonus. That's going to further boost our ability to take merc camps and to deal with the golems and stuff in the mines in a very quick and mana efficient way. I do think it's probably going to be the best build for defending against the golem, pushing with it, taking siege camps, stuff like that. It seems pretty strong. We need to... Okay, we take that out to get rid of their vision, but this is a pretty risky situation. We do grab that. Just pop Strafe here, the heroic, purely just to zone them out, to disengage a little bit. And it actually, the fight turns around quite quickly, and we start to win that pretty hard. But because it was a kind of a sudden swing in tempo, not ready to follow up, and the positioning not there, so the enemy team gets away. But once again, they're pretty low, which is going to be a pretty nice advantage for us. I think a good call for Arthas, from Arthas here, take out the sapper camp, get that pushing. So once again, we'll have a double siege camp, like a sapper and a siege camp, pushing the bottom lane during this mines phase, and that ought to, I think, take out this keep. It's on very low health. That should be more than enough to take it out if we can pull this off. Once again, you can see, though, very split within the mines. I hadn't realized that they were there. Kind of a bit distracted, so definitely bad positioning on my part. Thrall making his way down slowly, but Tyrael is on top of us, and this is a very serious situation. Rhaegar giving us some backup, and that's good. Gonna have the Q and the healing from the... Actually, no healing from the Q. Don't have the talent yet, but doing as much damage as we can, trying to juke around the Alarak and his potential combos. Nova fires off heroic, but it doesn't hit. Lunara's already dead. Alarak goes down, and Tyrael is going to fall as well. Thrall attempts to juke, but does not do it correctly, and he goes down, going to pick up Siphoning Arrow. So we do have some healing from our Q, gives a bit more survivability, and just trying to grab as many of these small camps as we can. This should be a big advantage for us. While Furion is on the defense, you can see the bottom keep did fall, so this should be massive tempo swing in our favor. Gonna burn through this thing pretty quickly. Don't have much mana, so I'm not going to use the EQ combo here to save that, and just focus on just regular Qs for the most part. That should be just fine. Which I think, overall watching this, definitely our splits in the mines have not been particularly good, though that is a tactic, and that strategy will develop as people get more used to the mines, I think. And certainly there's been some questionable stuff so far. A little bit questionable. Now this is very bad. Rhaegar is trying to solo this camp by himself, and is down to half health and used a lot of cooldowns already for pretty much nothing. Arthas spamming retreat pings, but Li Ming is going in with her stuff. Thrall goes in with Rhaegar as well, basically following, and Thrall walks into the enemy team and gets instantly deleted. Arthas is running around, basically the story of this game as well. I 100% agreeing with Arthas' sentiments in this situation. What the fuck is going on? Now the enemy team is kind of low, but very good. This Malfurion is very good with his placements on that, and the embarrassment of losing a fight to a leaping strike Lunara, it's pretty bad. Rhaegar also failing to use Ancestral in that fight. But yeah, I think like that was such a good example of really a noticeably lower tier of play. We're talking about people that I think they actually did have Grandmaster last season, but it just shows you know that the Grandmaster, you know, popping into Grandmaster for a second and grabbing the portrait and stuff really doesn't mean very much. You can see that they're noticeably weaker players than some of the better players that we're with. But yeah, like what is Rhaegar actually doing? Aggressively trying to take this siege camp when we have, you know, a level advantage. We have a super powered golem. We got summoned Syndragosa, and we're pushing in on their final keep. The other keep is down. Like we've got literally we're in a game-winning situation. So why is he forcing a fight over some sappers? It doesn't make any sense. And then you know the team Thrall just diving in with Arthas not there, instantly dying. It's just pretty bad all around. And Arthas decides to force a fight right here. He's been silenced. Ancestral comes in, but it is too late. Popping Strafe, doing what we can. Thrall is dead as well. I think Smexy potentially a little bit tilted. But yeah, I mean, that was certainly that's the situation where you do engage aggressively. It's when Summon Syndragosa gets popped and the warrior starts to engage. But unfortunately, did not work out for us at all. It wasn't a great fight to pick, and once again, like, what is Rhaegar trying to do here? What's he trying to do? Like, what is the goal? What is the goal here? You can see I'm like, okay, this guy's clearly shit. I'm looking at his talents and like, okay, like, how bad is this guy? But like, what is he trying to do as Rhaegar? What is he trying to do? 3v5. He's gonna like solo them out? Like, what's the plan? How does that ever transpire into a good play? When does something good ever come of that? Nothing good is going to come of that. You're begging them on your knees to kill you horribly. And once again, these guys are way out of position. You can see Arthas waiting back on his mount. He knows what's up. I've kind of run back. Thrall is just, he's out there with Earthquake. He's dead. He's completely separated from the team. Popping Strafe to try just do something, anything to try keep these guys alive. Go for the combo on Lunara. Get some damage down. Not enough to kill her, obviously. But it's just, that's what I'm talking about. The strategies, just the map awareness, and the, I think it's just so shocking. It's so startling. I thought all 3 other players on the team had really, really questionable movements. Again, they've kind of gone aggressively into the mines, and this is a 5v4, 1 talent tier down, so this is super risky. I'm just following Arthas and going to see what he does. Going to pop into the mines here. I think we can see the enemy team is probably rotating towards them. I actually kind of get caught out myself here a little bit. That was not the best position for me. Just trying to keep our teammates alive, because they're just gonna die. They're way out. They've moved into that, again, it's the new structure, so fair enough. But they moved into that bottom right-hand corner, and we can see like the other camps are just disappearing behind them as they go. It's like the enemy team is coming, and you're stuck in this loop. In this loop between the 2 exit points, like you're gonna die. So went in to try to help them. They both died, of course, but we escaped alive, so that's something. But this is going to be a very powerful golem for the enemy team, no doubt about that. Just trying to get some waves push, just trying to make something happen in the meantime. So I had to pick up, I think, frost shots in this particular game, just for some extra utility, some extra slows. This camp is respawning soon, so, you know, might as well grab it, have it pushing with ours, just do something. Thrall, like, what is he doing? Is he going to 1v4 the whole team? Probably not. Again, there's no reason for him to be in the mines except to die, basically. But it is really interesting how quickly you can get into the mines now, into that central area. You can get there very, very, very quick. But yeah, I mean, I have my head in my hands for so much of this game. Like, the stuff that the Rhaegar, the Thrall, the Li Ming, like, so much of their positioning has been so bad, and their calls and the things they're trying to do, it's just, the ideas are just terrific. It's like you're picking so many situations that don't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just terrible. Anyway, I'm saying, like, no point to fight out here. We can see Lunara's not here, but to me, this just seems like such a bad move. Again, I disagree with Smexy as well in this situation. I think it's a really bad move. Ancestral does miss, and they get taken out. And Lunara's not even here, but I just saw this coming. I was like, there's no reason. Again, I was saying that before we saw Lunara's bottom, fair enough, but I really do feel there's no reason to actually stay outside here. I think you're just asking to be killed. They got stuck between Tyrael, the Golem, Nova ults, just Malfurion roots. They just got stuck in all this CC and they got picked off. I don't actually blame Rhaegar in that situation. I did watch this game back, by the way, because I was really curious about this one. And I watched that teamfight back in particular. That's a bit of a new move by me getting rooted there. Actually, that's pretty bad. I think I'm going to die. Yeah, Nova just picks me off. That was just kind of dumb. But, I mean, small mistake. There's no way we actually... maybe if I'd lived, we could have defended, actually. So that kind of potentially sort of threw the game away. But to be honest, it's a, you know, I suppose forgive me for making one mistake at the end. But yeah, potentially if I'd lived there, I think we maybe still had a chance. But my death basically secured the kill, the loss, which is pretty bad. But oh well, much bigger mistakes made throughout this game by everyone else. But yeah, I mean, at that end there, I just don't think there's any point in defending outside of the gate. I just really don't think there's any point. I think it's really bad. I thought the Li Ming was, again, quite arrogant, and I didn't think, you know, I thought Li Ming played okay-ish, though, only ish. I thought Rhaegar and Thrall played worse. They got caught out multiple times, but, you know, Li Ming did too. I wasn't super convinced. There you go. I mean, like, you could look at the deaths, but I do think that Smexy actually probably played pretty well overall. I thought that the other three were noticeably weaker. I think that's interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that and what you made of it. But certainly, I thought it was very funny as well that, you know, I found it so intriguing that you can come away from this and just to watch it in action, to watch someone playing, I would think, or players playing noticeably worse, kind of then criticizing the players that are playing better. I thought, for example, that the Smexy Arthas sacrifice at the start of the game, that is such a good example of that. A good player making a really good move, making the best out of a situation that, has kind of gone a little bit to shit, but still a very positive trade for you. And then the weaker players not recognizing that and basically making the situation much worse by just opting into a really bad situation and then, blaming and pointing the finger at the player who actually did the completely right thing. I thought that was kind of the name of the game. But this sort of thing happens a lot in the placement games I found this season. I don't know in other seasons if I noticed as much, but this season in particular, I think because of the MMR squish, you have these sort of squished. Well, it just means that we're still getting like. This is sort of the low mastery type players, Diamond 1 low mastery type players, but we're getting them more frequently in combination with like pro players and like really good Grandmasters. Not bad Grandmasters, they're really good Grandmasters. And you can just see like the really good Grandmasters. You can see two things. You can see the Grandmaster standard players kind of struggling to play with the weaker players, or following shot calls, or assuming they're going to follow shot calls, and that doesn't happen. Or then they follow bad shot calls and get caught out a bit. Or then also you can see them at the same time kind of sometimes just owning the weaker players on the other team. And I think that kind of happened in this game. Like, shout out as well to that Malfurion. I think he got MVP and he super earned it. It was pretty amazing. And yeah, kind of an interesting game. Hopefully you also enjoyed the look at Haunted Mines. I do expect the map to be tweaked a bit. So I'll come up with like better strategies for playing on the map will obviously develop probably over the course of the next month or two, I guess, with the map being changed. I expect the golems to be stronger and just do more damage because they seem really weak at the moment. They're just big bullet sponges. And I think ironically, Haunted Mines is one of the maps that used to finish the quickest, and now it's one of the maps that has the longest games on it. It's kind of nuts. But yeah, there you go, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Wouldn't recommend Syndragosa Arthas, even if Smexy did run it. Don't think it's very good. And we had questionable talent builds from some of the other members of the team as well. But yeah, anyway, give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. All the same, I'll see you next time for our next game. And yeah, unfortunately we've gone negative now. That's 3 losses, 2 wins. So that's feels bad, man. Feels bad, man, for our placement games. But we'll see if things turn around in the future or if they do not. Stay tuned, guys. Bye-bye.